Welcome to Podnutz Daily for September 25th, 2008, episode number 85. Okay, at the shop we had another laptop, a Mac PowerBook G4, and I got to admit, this is like probably the fifth Mac I've actually taken apart and worked on. I really enjoy working on Macs. Everything is nice and neat in there, and it's taped down in the correct spots and screwed together all nice. And I was having a conversation about this with one of my customers, talking about Macs, and you do have to pay a lot to get a Mac. I mean, like, I talk about how I like them a lot and how I think they're built really good, but if you do put, plunk down like $2,500, which is the price of a MacBook Pro, you're going to get a nice PC too. So, anyway, this PowerBook had fan problems. It was running really loud. The fan would get really loud when it turned on. Well, it turns out that this customer was using the computer a lot to watch movies, like sitting in bed. And that's just a bad idea unless you have the computer on a tray or something like that. If you have it like sitting on the sheets or sitting on a comforter, it's going to pull in a lot of dust and lint, and it's going to clog the fan a lot easier, or clog the heatsink a lot easier, and possibly clog the fan. So it looked like that's what was happening. The fan had some chunks of dust in there. It was trying to spin, and it was having a tough time of it, and it started whining a little bit. Took both fans out. The PowerBook G4 has two fans. Sprayed them down with compressed air, blew all the dust out, and then actually sprayed some contact cleaner into each fan, got them nice and clean, made sure the contact cleaner was completely dry. Contact cleaner evaporates like in a second, but I just left them out for maybe 15, 20 minutes, made sure it was dry, put them back in. They're running smooth now, so if he continues to use it on a bed, he's probably going to have to do that every couple months just to make sure the dust is out. Put the PowerBook back together, and that was a done one. I filmed that one for the videos, by the way. Okay, another customer has a son in the military. He's in Iraq. Just came back from Iraq and brought his Dell with him. Now, just imagine what a Dell Inspiron that's been to Iraq would look like, because that's what this thing looked like. There was sand in it. There was, and actually, unfortunately, the kid had spilled a glass of water in it. So he wanted to see if I could get it up and running. And like I said before in the last podcast, if a customer brings me a computer that has something spilled in it, I do not test it. I do not press the power button. I take the battery out instantly if the battery's not out already, and I take the thing apart and I look at all the circuit boards, because I don't want it to be me that's the cause of the computer not being able to come on if there's any moisture left in the machine. So I started taking this thing apart. It was covered in white and corrosion. And if you ever really saw a really corroded motherboard, it's white corrosion, and then if it's really bad, there's little green things that are growing on there too, like chunks of things. And at that point, it wasn't even worth cleaning. I even if I cleaned off all the corrosion, there was no way this motherboard was working. It was like frosted white. I took a couple pictures of it, which will also be in the laptop videos to be released this year. Anyway, that's too much corrosion. But the point of that is, if you have to work on a machine that has been wet, do not turn it on. Just start taking it apart instantly. Just take it apart, take the battery out, take it apart. Do not try it, because there still might be some moisture in there, and you want to make sure that moisture is out of there. And when I clean a laptop that has got something spilled in it, I take every piece apart. Every single crevice you can get into, you got to get in there. And if there is corrosion on some parts, I use a toothbrush. I use Purell hand sanitizer, which I just had laying around the shop one day, and I decided to try to use it because it's alcohol-based, and it works great for removing corrosion. I put it on a toothbrush like you're putting toothpaste on a toothbrush, and I just kind of scrub all the circuit boards off and make sure they're completely dry, and then start putting everything back together. But the smallest little nook, you'd be surprised that the water gets in there and starts to corrode the circuit board, so you really have to take the thing entirely apart. So that's my recommendation on spilled laptops. Have another laptop. It's Toshiba, probably about 4 or 5 years old. It was running really slow. And what was happening was, my dad was actually working on this machine, so I'm going to try to get all the details straight. He had, when in certain points as the computer's running and the operating system's running, it was running Windows XP, it would just bog down. It would just go really slow. And the hard drive would be cranking. But to check the task manager, to open a task manager to see what was actually running that was causing this was impossible. It just would not open. When we were finally able to open the task manager, which might be after a couple minutes, everything would be calm. So you couldn't tell what was happening from the task manager, because the only time the task manager would open was the point where everything was calm again. Everything was smooth. Nothing was maxing out the processor. And then certain points again, the hard drive would just start cranking. Well, this laptop has been through a lot. I mean, I had to replace the CD drive in it. I thought it had a bad motherboard. It looked like it's been abused physically, or exposed to some extreme condition or temperature. So there's a good chance the hard drive might be starting to fail. Anyway, we ran check disk/r, and after that, the thing ran great. So I think it's a temporary fix. The drive might be on its way out. It failed the C-Tools test, by the way. But after running check disk/r, I didn't try running the C-Tools test again. I'm going to try running that tomorrow. And that's C-Tools. That's a Seagate utility for checking hard drive status. Okay, let me read a couple emails here, and then we got some Mike from, what is it, Valencia Video and Audio. I'll get it when I get to that point. Mike had left me an MP3, a voice message. It's about 7 minutes long. It's all about DSL and problems and routers and problems you might encounter in that and how to fix them. So I want to play that first. I'm going to read a couple emails. Sherwin says, Steve, I'd like to suggest a topic for one of your daily shows. You can talk about repairing a laptop DC jack, more or less along the lines of what desoldering and soldering iron you use, wattage, special number, laptop, screwdriver set, basic soldering tips in general. I'm recommending this because I have two Sony Vaios. It's a VNG-FJ290 series laptop to repair for a family member. Both DC jacks are broken. He has two Sony laptops. Both DC jacks are broken, and since I've never attempted this before, any help would be excellent. Thank you for keeping up the good work. Well, I will cover that in a future episode, Sherwin. But there's only so much I could do on the daily show as far as how to get that repair done. If you really want to see how it gets done, like I said, I'm filming every laptop repair I do in the shop now. It's going to be released in the laptop videos, and that should be coming out soon. So maybe you want to wait for that, but it's a good idea. I think I will cover that in a future. You know what? I'll just tell you right now. What the heck? I use a 15-watt soldering iron from Radio Shack. Don't know the number. It's probably the only 15-watt one they have. The solder, I think, is .032 solder from Radio Shack. And as far as taking the computers apart, that might be something you need to wait for the videos for. The screwdriver set I use is the one that Cynthia won in the Podnutz contest. It's the $10 screwdriver set from Micro Center. It's in a red case. It's like $10. It's got like 48 parts in it, screwdrivers, little wrenches and stuff. And for basic soldering tips, maybe I'll cover that in a little later episode. But that's a couple things I could give you right off the bat. And Wendy writes, hey, Steve, could you let people know what utilities work on Vista and which ones don't?